Hello, and welcome to Pressing Buttons. I'm Hugo.
I'm Nick.
Another great week, another great episode coming at you. Episode 83. It's good to be here, be back, and we are looking to be consistent again with weekly episodes. You happy about this, Nick?
Yeah, feels good.
I mean,
I was like, I couldn't believe that we just forgot to do an episode
yeah,
last week. So
that's going to haunt us for a while.
it's fine.
We
I don't think anyone really cared. So,
yeah, nobody said anything.
so maybe that's some other feedback that we should think about. But
But
it happens.
we care, which is enough.
We care. Yeah.
Yeah. So a little bit of a different episode this week. It's been light on the news front for video games, so we wanted to do something a little bit different. I know the everybody who listens to our podcast loves our opinion. Otherwise, why are they listening to us? I was You answer the question. Why are they listening to us?
I don't know. I was hoping you were going to answer it for
It
me.
was rhetorical. Besides being good friends with us and liking our content, we wanted to do something a little bit different just because every now and then we will have those weeks where we don't have like a lot of video game news. So in honor of Spider-Man coming out this week, which we have been looking forward to for a while, it's one of our favorite superheroes. Nick lives in his neighborhood in the comics. He's out in Forest Hills out there. I live in New York City, so maybe he can save me at one point. I live in the Heights, so he's not coming to the Heights.
No.
But we wanted to do something a little different, and that different thing is we wanted to do like a video game special. We're gonna talk about our top five favorite superhero games.
A video game special?
Yeah, video game for superheroes.
Isn't that every week?
Yeah, it's a new special every
It's
week.
a superhero special.
It's a superhero for video game special.
Okay.
We're still workshopping the title. As you can see, we don't do this every week.
Yeah.
But it's basically, we're just going to give our top five for superhero video games that we've enjoyed so far in our lifetime, and then some honorable mentions. And we will also, laughing about our.
enjoy in our lifetime. In our lifetime. Okay.
Yeah, well,
Sorry, I thought that's funny.
This is a funny episode. This
Yeah.
this is an off the cuff, no news episode, and then we'll also do a segment on superhero video games that we need or want, and that's a big one too because there's a couple of superheroes in there that I think deserve some video games, and they might have had some adaptations, but they probably sucked. So that's why we want some good ones. So we'll start right off the top. We're going to go into our top five superhero video games, which we both agreed on this list. But we're going to do some honorable mentions for those of you that aren't familiar with these games. We'll talk a little bit about them and why we mentioned them. First one would be Guardians of the Galaxy, the one released in 2021 by Square Enix and Eido, I believe. Is it Eido? Let me check.
Eidos?
Yeah, Eidos Montreal.
Montreal, yeah.
There you go. Look at that. We don't need.
I don't need a fucking producer.
Yeah, we don't need some guy in our ear telling us shit. We just
Yeah.
fumble it until we get it. But yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy. We both played this one back in 2021 when it got released. Nick is a big Guardians of the Galaxy fan ever since James Gunn's original Guardians of the Galaxy movie released. I like the characters as well, and obviously with the movie being out and Square Enix Eidos kind of taking a role on it and doing their own take on it, we wanted to check it out, and it got favorable reviews. People enjoyed it. Different. It was similar enough to the movies with the soundtrack and all that stuff and the characters, but different enough with its own vibe where you didn't feel like you were just they were just kind of taking off what the success of the movie, and I think we both really enjoyed it. I know we messaged each other what we were doing and the characters and all that stuff, and I think they did a really great job in terms of, even though you only played as Star-Lord Peter Quill, you kind of got that team vibe of everybody. You could do combos off of the other characters and do different things. And there was enough side characters that I think it just made the game its own thing. Any thoughts on Guardians of the Galaxy?
No, I think you covered it. I think it was a pleasant surprise where I had pretty low expectations for the game, and I'm trying to remember. I think like the marketing of the game was like non-existent, so it was kind of just like maybe there was like one or two like trailers, and I don't think they were particularly great, and the combat looked pretty janky. But then when it came out, it was getting like a lot of positive buzz. I think the combat was still, there was some jank to it for sure, but there was so much goodness and like everywhere else that I think I like more than made up for it. So yeah, I had a great time with that game, and it was kind of a bummer that it ended up being a, well, I don't even know, was it actually a commercial flop, or is that just like Square Enix had
I think it's
unrealistic expectations and said it was a flop? Like I can't, like who knows?
I think it was more of
But
a
either
flop in
way,
Square Enix's eyes. They thought it was
yeah.
going to be more, but I
But
think it was great.
yeah, but either way, I don't. It doesn't sound like we're getting a sequel anytime soon, which is sad because yeah, it was great. It was a good all the characters I thought were a lot of fun. Maybe a little too influenced by the movies, but it was still, still done like in a fun way. Yeah, it was definitely an honorable mention.
Yeah. So even if it does become a one-off where they don't make any sequels or anything like that, it's something to pick up. So if you want to see something interesting and a different type of game, I'm pretty sure it's in the bargain bin for like $10 or $5 or something like that. Pick it up. We definitely recommend it. Next game, Comic Zone, and I didn't even know about this one until you mentioned it before we started writing about the show. And this one's like a old Sega game, and you're literally in a comic book. And you kind of go through the panels. It looked fun. I never played it, but it looked like an enjoyable game. Your thoughts on this one?
Like I was mainly joking. I don't know why. Like, I remember this game vividly. It was a Sega Genesis game, and it just had such a unique. Like, you're actually it's kind of like a side-scrolling beat 'em up type game. But you're like literally traversing through comic book panels, and it kind of had this like fun story and all that. So I don't know. Like, just anytime people talk about comic book games, it's a game. It's a game that like I think about. I actually would need to go back and play it. I
See
don't
if
know
it
if it's
still holds up.
necessarily. Yeah, I don't like. I don't think it probably holds up all that well, but maybe it's fine. I'm not sure. But definitely the strength was its presentation and look. So I think just because of that, it gets an honorable mention. Just because
Honorable
it's
mention.
like it's one of the first things that comes to mind when we're talking about comic books and video games.
Yeah, and not necessarily the two don't go together all the time, superhero and comic books, but they do kind of match up, which you'll see from the list and from the next one that also gets an honorable mention. That just because they didn't have a comic book or anything like that doesn't mean that they're not superheroes. The other honorable mention, the last honorable mention, I would say is Prototype. And this one, if you never played it, you played this guy that got these powers where he could kind of make his body do different things, whether it becomes a scythe, so you could cut things, a hammer to crush things. I think what I really enjoyed about this game was just a traversal. It did come out as the same time as Infamous, which we'll talk about on the list. It came out around the same time. I think they were kind of competing. This one was made by Activision, whereas Infamous was made by Sucker Punch, and it was mostly about having these superpowers type things. And I think just what I enjoyed about this one was just the freedom of like crushing into buildings, the scaling, the traversal and all that stuff, and then the heavy duty, just kind of destroying everything and becoming this Venom type symbiote where you could just transform into anything and make anything out of your body and do awesome third action shit. What are your thoughts on Prototype?
Exactly zero.
Exactly zero. Well, they did
Yeah,
have
I never played it. I never played it, but it coming around or being like comped to Infamous. But other than that, I got nothing to add.
it wasn't very spectacular, especially in terms of like the story or anything like that, or the hype around it, or it didn't make anything innovative and new. But I did think it was just an enjoyable something to pick up and just go crazy. Just like I don't know if you ever played the Hulk game. That was another good one. The Hulk one for GameCube or whatever. That was pretty fun, where you could just like get the cars and smash them into your face and just do like you just felt invincible. So that was pretty fun. And they made two of these, so somebody must have liked them. All right, and then enough with the honorable mentions. We're gonna go right into our list, which we kind of agreed on. I think this is a definite list for both of us, in no particular order. We got the Arkham series. We couldn't decide on which one was the best one. We got the Spider-Man. This is the original one from Insomniac, the original Spider-Man. We got Marvel Ultimate Alliance. We got Infamous, and then we got Marvel vs. Capcom 2. And then we're just going to go over why we think these games kind of make it at the top of our list. I would say starting off with the Arkham series. I mean, I think it redefined the genre in terms of combat, in terms of what could be like a good video game adaptation of a superhero, especially with Batman. I know there was prior games, but this one just kind of nailed it. It nailed it in terms of you felt like Batman. It nailed it in terms of you felt like you were doing Batman things and were fighting the Rogues Gallery and doing the detective work. All the characters obviously reimagining with the Rocksteady art style of like Killer Croc, the Joker, Poison Ivy. You know, Batman arguably has the greatest rogues gallery aside from Spider-Man. So I think to just be represented in that game and in this fashion in a different art style, I think they did it so well. That's why I think, you know, it's hard to pin down which one's the best. Obviously, you would want to say the first one because it kind of started it, but you can also arguably say Arkham City was better just because it opened everything up. But then you can also say Arkham Knight kind of closed the series, and it did a great job of it. To me personally, I think Asylum is the best one just because it started it off and it was such a tight-knit story, whereas City and Night kind of opened up the world more and it kind of became too big in my opinion, but I think it just worked so well. And you know, it kind of put Rocksteady on the map of, hey man, this studio makes great AAA superhero games. What do you think of the Arkham series yourself?
Yeah, it's tough. I would probably have to go with the first one as well, um, just because it was such like a groundbreaking title, and I think was probably the first biggest comic book superhero adaptation that like really landed with pretty much everyone. And we take a step back and think about like which comic book characters like need a video game. I think Batman was like always probably like the most obvious one, just because there's such like a variety of, you know, he like beats people up, he does detective stuff, it's cool stories, cool character. Like it's just all the ingredients were there. There just like never was a compelling game until Arkham Asylum. And I think it kind of like, I mean, you see that combat system in a lot of places now, most notably
so
Spider-Man.
Often.
Yeah, like even like Mad Max. Like I love the Mad Max game, and it's basically like it's the Arkham Asylum combat system. It's just like with a different skin on it. So that's, you know, another thing. I can't really think of like a game before that had that type of combat system that works. So. But yeah, to me, like I think this is a no-brainer. I think it's one of the best, you know, comic book games. We'll get into a little bit later, but I think the latest Spider-Man game is probably my new number one. But I think that has a lot of credit needs to be given to Batman for, you know, serving as good foundation and inspiration for the current Spider-Man games. I think that's it, and I think. Yeah, I agree with you. I think I would probably have to go with the first one just because it was for the same reason I like Demon Souls the best out of all those games. Like I kind of sometimes prefer just like the closer, more intimate experience. Like I don't need to have the giant open world, where I think that was a lot of the criticism with the most recent Batman game. Is just like, okay, I don't need to do all this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, story-wise, I think Arkham City is definitely better, but gameplay-wise and how compact it is, I think Asylum is much more of a tight-knit story.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think you know, that was a great foundation, and I think that's why a lot of people are pumped for Suicide Squad. But
yeah, a lot of goodwill holds you to this is how people trust, especially me. I believe in the goodwill of Rocksteady, of how well they did the Arkham series. That even though we haven't seen good stuff with Suicide Squad, I still have hope. And then we'll see next year if my hopes get crushed. And I know you don't have a lot of belief in it, so.
Why do you always think I'm so negative? Like I was actually looking forward to this.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, when we have talked about it, we are kind of on the same point of like, oh, it looks all right. Like we're not bashing it. Yeah, it looks fun. We'll see.
Yeah, I was surprised by how overly negative the response was to because there was like a PlayStation State of Play, and that didn't go down very particularly well, and I think was probably one of the reasons why they ended up delaying it for a year or whatever. But I don't know. I mean, it looked fun to me.
Yeah, I think we're just like you and I are the type of people like, yeah, we want that vibe of Arkham series, but also give us something new. And this is, I think, why we both agree that the first one's kind of the better one, where it was more tight knit and it was more intimate, whereas the other ones kind of made the world bigger, more characters, more stuff to do, which kind of made the game too much, which is why we think with the new Suicide Squad game that Rocksteady's kind of doing what they want. We're like, hey, you love this world, but let's give it a different spin of it. So we'll see how that holds up. And then moving on to the next game is Spider-Man. And then obviously this one being fairly new, released 4 or 5 years ago by Insomniac. Great studio, obviously, with their pedigree. There's a reason why Sony acquired them. They've never really, I think, in my book at least, they've never really struck out. I love their Ratchet and Clank games. I really like their Resistance. Was it Resistance? The first-person shooter games that they had? Yeah, Resistance Fall of Man.
Yeah, they did Resistance, right?
Yeah. I thought those were pretty good, even though it was a little bit of out of their comfort zone, it being a first-person type of game. And then now, obviously, with Spider-Man 1 coming out 4 or 5 years ago, I think they knocked it out of the park. Like you said, riding on the coattails of kind of like the Batman Arkham combat system. I think they kind of, got what you need out of a Spider-Man game. And obviously there's been so many Spider-Man games, some to do with the movies that were released at the time, and then some to do with nothing at all, or just comic books and stuff. Well, mostly comic books. I think just the fact that they were able to tell their own story where you didn't know what was coming, different beats of it, with Doc Ock and the symbiote, and Harry Osborn and Norman Osborn and all that stuff. The Sinister Six, like they were able to put their own spin on it. I think it was fresh enough. And then I think out of all the games, they nailed the web slinging the best. Obviously, with Spider-Man going through New York City, I think that's something you got to nail, and everybody's loved it. And I know with the new one, they're loving the wingsuit and the traversal. But I think that's one of those things where you do feel like the superhero, the one you're embodying in the game. Which with this list of video games, I think that's what kind of nails it, and that's why it's at the top of the list, because you do feel like with Batman, you feel like you're fighting these rogues and doing detective work. With Spider-Man, you feel like you're swinging through New York City, and it just feels so good and refreshing. Your thoughts on Spider-Man?
Very refreshing. Yeah. So growing up, I was very much more of a Spider-Man kid than a Batman kid. I liked them both, but I definitely preferred Spider-Man. And then also someone who's lived in New York for a long time. It's actually something I want to talk about, like how much, because we both live in New York, like how much of that influences why we like these games, because you definitely catch a lot of references and things that like people that don't live in New York might not otherwise get. So I do think that influences why the Spider-Man games and just like flying around the city and um, but yeah, I think even going back to I think the first Spider-Man game was probably the best superhero game at that point in time. So like, I think it took a lot of influence from Batman and some other things. There'd been a lot of Spider-Man games that I think were actually not like not terrible. Like some of them were. I think there was like one or two in particular done by Activision that I think people generally liked. Um, but yeah, for me, it's like I think the first Spider-Man game was already like the best superhero. Miles Morales was incredible. Kind of like debatable what that even like was it DLC or like was it its own? I think it was its own game.
Yeah, I think it was its own full thing.
Yeah, but it was kind of short. I was totally fine with it, but I think some people were like what is this?
Well, it was enough to hold
But
you over while part two
yeah,
came
yeah,
out.
yeah. No, I mean, I loved it. I mean, I thought it was incredible. But I remember when it coming out, it was like people were like, "Hey, what is this? This is like it's too short. Is this DLC or?" Uh, but either way, and then I've been playing, and I'll get into this more in clips, but I've been playing quite a bit of Spider-Man 2, and it's like it's fucking incredible. So it's like to me, that's the new benchmark for like all superhero movies, just across story, gameplay, performance, um, and gets me really excited about Wolverine.
Yeah, totally agree with you there. I mean, it's they like I was saying. There's so many beats to Spider-Man that you know already. You know, Uncle Ben. You know, the symbiote. You know, Peter Parker. You know, Mary Jane. You know what happens to them, and you know, now with Miles Morales Spider-Man. You know his beats and stuff like that. But the fact that they're able to make the storyline so great and also the gameplay so great while we kind of know what to expect or what happens in the Spider-Man universe, and it still works. I think that goes credit to Insomniac and how well as a studio they do. I think, and I think I saw this online somewhere, but I do think that they have surpassed Naughty Dog as the top tier PlayStation studio, along with Sony Santa Monica. I think those two are the top two tier studios, just because you know with the Naughty Dog they haven't really produced anything recently that besides The Last of Us 2. But with Santa Monica, God of War, and then Insomniac with Spider-Man, and then the future Wolverine, I think top tier 1-2 combo right there. It's good enough. Next game
Damn,
on, yeah, yeah.
that's those are some fighting words.
Put that on a box cover. Put that on the Spider-Man box cover. That'll be the day.
Yeah, just yeah, just Insomniac shitting on other studios owned by
Yeah,
PlayStation.
pressing button said it.
Definitely better than Naughty Dog.
And then the next game on our top 5 list is Marvel Ultimate Alliance, and this one's a bit of a throwback. I don't know if too many people are familiar with it, but I remember when this came out, and just the fact that you were able to play as so many Marvel superheroes and do so many different things and did it so well. I know they released one recently for the Switch, and it wasn't as well received. I think it just kind of was more of the same, especially because they released 2 of these back in the day. But just the fact that you were able to play with so many characters, do so many different combos, and then play through this kind of world, which is ultimately what we want. We want to be able to have this freedom to have as many of these superheroes as we can in our control. I think it just, for the time, it worked so well and it played so well, and it was good to see in video game form. Any thoughts on Marvel Ultimate Alliance on your end? Big thoughts?
Big thoughts.
Big thoughts.
I had a good time. I had a good time with these games, and I even bought which you might be surprised to hear, but I even bought the one on the Switch just because I was
Wow. For those on
I
audio
was just
only,
hungry.
I'm making a surprise face.
Surprise face, yeah. Yeah, so I always like the series. It's just kind of like dumb fun. You can play it on your own. You can do co-op. It's got a bunch of characters. I think they do a good job of just like it's kind of like the Smash Brothers of the mindless beat 'em up game, where it's just a bunch of crazy characters, collect some skins. Like, you know, what more do you need?
Sign me up. I'll pay.
Yeah, yeah. But I do think I would say like I was and maybe this is just like nostalgia, but the Switch one definitely wasn't. I didn't have the best experience with it, so maybe I was like a little bit kind of regret that purchase. But
I mean, I can see that. It was more of a purchase because of your fondness for the older ones. Than more was like, oh, it's a new Marvel Ultimate Alliance. I think definitely, I guess if the focus was more towards the newer consoles or just put that much power into it and money into it, yeah, it would turn out to be great. But this was more of a nostalgia sell, I think it was.
they got me.
I got you. You know. The Nintendo hater. I got the Nintendo hater. All right, and then next on our list is Infamous. This one I really enjoyed. This one was by Sucker Punch. Obviously not a based on a character that's in any comic book or movies or anything like that. It was its own creation. This was definitely around the hype of the times of like being good and evil. It had its own good and evil system where the choices you made, whether saving a baby or whatever, or saving people from a fire or whatever, could affect how you became at the end of the game, which kind of rolled into Infamous 2, where it picked a good ending. But I really enjoyed this one just because, like I said, it wasn't based on any pre-existing character. It was its own thing, but it did give you the choices of, the good and evil. Do you want to be a good superhero or do you want to be a bad? And then just the ability to go around the world, have these electrical powers and everything you could do. And I think it does kind of set up a lot of new superhero video games, especially in terms of the side quests and what you can do in the world and how awesome your powers are. Especially like we're playing Spider-Man. I feel like this kind of Spider-Man kind of owes a lot to these type of games like Infamous. And then part 2 was really good as well. Part 1 being kind of set in a New York City type of world, and then part 2 being set in kind of like a New Orleans type of world. I think it was really well done. And hopefully we see another one, but I know Sucker Punch is also one of those top tier PlayStation studios, so they're working on a bunch of different things. But I wouldn't mind seeing a third Infamous. What about you? Did you get to play Infamous? Did you enjoy any of these superpowers, especially like feeling like Static Shock?
I can't remember. I think I played it through PlayStation Plus. Does that sound right?
Yeah, because it was free.
It was. Yeah, it was.
You know me. I love me some free PlayStation Plus.
So I think me, and it might have even been told me about when that happened, and I played it. So I played it. I respect the game, but I didn't put too much time into it. And to your point, you can definitely and they're completely different studios, but I do think Spider-Man is also drawing some influence from these games, so much so that I actually sometimes forget that it was actually Sucker Punch who made these games and not Insomniac.
Yeah, I had to. I did the same thing. I had to remember.
Yeah. Because you would almost kind of be like, oh yeah, like the studio who did Infamous should do the Spider-Man game. Like, but anyway, so I totally get it, but I do know it's people of the series. I'm not optimistic there's going to be a new one. I think Sucker Punch is pretty focused on Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah, they moved on.
Yeah. I don't know what it like. Why is it? It's like for the same reason Naughty Dog's to Jack and Daxter. Like, we're never going to see another Sly Cooper or any of those IPs from like earlier on and those studios' journeys.
Yeah, it's sad to hear, especially just because, obviously you want them to make these new experiences, but you love them because of their past experiences. So that kind of sucks. I mean, I don't have high hopes for any of that. Sly Cooper, I know they did the like re-release of a remaster for the original games, and they're focused on Ghost of Tsushima, and I think they're working on something else from rumors that I'm hearing. But their main focus, obviously, is Ghost of Tsushima because that did so well and it plays so well that it's very hard to see them going back to this. But it's a welcoming thought, and I think even with the new crowd, there's a lot of people because this game came out like 10, 15 years ago. I'm pretty sure there's like a big enough crowd where it's like you bring it to them and it's done really well. Like I think they could do it. It'll sell. It'll sell. Just put that sucker punch seal of approval and I'm in.
Do they have one of those?
No, but they should make it.
Oh, okay.
No. That Nintendo
used to have one, yeah.
Nintendo quality seal. All right, and then the last game on our list is Marvel vs. Capcom 2. And then this one's a little bit different because unlike any of the other games, this one's a fighting game. But I think this one was so influential and had such an impact is because of the characters. Obviously, it being a fighting game, bringing two worlds, the Capcom world and the Marvel world, and doing it so well with characters that are so well known. And translating it with the art so well and able to it be one of the best fighting games in the world that I think so many people can recognize right off the bat and enjoy and play even if they're not avid fighting game characters. I think just the fact that it was able to bring so much recognition into it, I think that it deserves to be in this category. And like I said, even though it's a fighting game, I think it's just something that makes you want to play just by the way it looks and who's in there. You got Magneto, Iron Man, Spider-Man, Wolverine, Ken, Ryu, some Darkstalkers people. I don't know the Darkstalkers people. Morgan, you got Morgan, Mega Man, like so many, franchises in there. That it's amazing. And I know you're a big Marvel versus Capcom guy, and I think we talked a lot about it. Your thoughts on Marvel versus Capcom 2?
I almost bought that rug. You remember the rug at Evo?
Yeah. Our Evo
the Marvel
rug.
versus Capcom. But it was very expensive, and I don't think I would have gotten wife approval.
Yeah, I don't think
really to put it anywhere.
But imagine how cool that rug would be for people coming into your home. Oh shit, Marvel versus Capcom rug.
Yeah. Maybe if it was a little cheaper, that would have been worth it. But that was a lot of money. So my fallback I think I've shared a screenshot of this, but I just have like the high res, like Marvel vs. Capcom 2 poster artwork.
Yeah.
As my wallpaper, for my LG Dual Up monitor. So
love some good artwork.
Yeah. So it's right here. Like I'm looking at it right now, and it looks great. But yeah, I think I saw you put this game on the list. I was like, should this count as a superhero game? But I'm like,
half the roster.
It's fine. it's yeah, like it's fine. Like it's like, maybe kind of similar to Ultimate Alliance. Like just anytime you can like bring together like a bunch of different characters and with some fun gameplay, that's a good time. So yeah, I think kind of similar to like Comic Zone. I know this is like kind of maybe a little bit out there, but just anytime someone's like comic books and games, this is like I just immediately think of Marvel vs. Capcom 2. So I think just based on that reason, it should be on our list.
Yeah, and I can confidently say that we both want a new entry in the series. We know they had part 3, and then they had, what was the other one?
Infinite?
Yeah, they had part 3 and they had Infinite.
Yeah.
And part 3 was okay. Infinite, nobody likes that one.
Three, yeah, people are like, it kind of had this like resurgence and people are, and it's still like small. Like I don't think it did great, but there's like an active community and there's tournaments and all that stuff. I think was it at Evo recently? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm making. I think it was
at
like
Evo for 2023. Yeah.
Yeah. But not Infinite. Infinite was
nobody wants it.
That was the one. That was the one with the Chun-Li debacle where people were like, "What the hell?" Like the game was bad across many dimensions, but like specifically the Chun-Li character model was just like so brutal. So yeah, hopefully, I think people are very optimistic that there's going to be another installment of that franchise at some point.
I mean, and rightfully so. I think it would sell like hotcakes. Obviously, the characters are so well known right off the bat. The game itself is in so many arcades. I don't feel like I've ever been to an arcade or someplace that has arcades, a skating rink or a bowling alley or whatever, where this game isn't there. It's this and The Simpsons, and it's always there. I think if they release a 2D one with better sprites with the technology that we have these days, I think anybody would be in there and just keep that combat system where it's not as complicated as it is these days. I think you'll be fine, but one can only dream.
You'll be fine.
We'll see. I mean, I still think if we ever get this game, you'll just be a little throw bitch, so it doesn't matter.
I mean, I don't know if we'll cover in closing thoughts, but I do appreciate that people love playing Street Fighter 6 just as long as I'm not playing. Like, did you see this?
Yeah,
it was
I heard
on
it.
Game Night.
I heard the one that was saying it.
People were playing, like, oh yeah, this is so, like, we're having fun. This is so good. And then because I was like off dealing with like baby stuff, and then
here comes Nick throwing people.
Yeah, and then as soon as I come back, they're like, okay, let's play something else now. I'm like, damn, dude.
You put the fear in them. But
it's just throwing. All you got to do is just cancel the throw. Like it's.
You say that like it's
just cancel the throw.
Oh my god! Let's not turn this into a whole thing. We can talk about this on Discord.
Okay.
But that does it for our top 5 superhero games. If you guys have any, recommendations or anything you feel like we missed on the list, or you want to give us your opinions, make sure you guys do that on our Discord, which you can get through on our pressingbuttons.gg website. And now we're going to talk about superheroes that need games, and this is more of our wants. Obviously, we're big gamers, and we're also big like comic book and anime and live action superhero fans. So we want to see these superheroes in video games, whether they've had a video game before and it just sucked, or they never had one that was, or never had one at all. I think we should definitely see them. I'll start off. I want to say Superman, man. Superman is my favorite superhero. I know Spider-Man's your guy.
Boring.
Superman is not boring. Superman, rightly done, is so good. He's so powerful. If you just gotta, make it seem like he's too powerful, so he doesn't want to pick on the weak people. But obviously, we had the atrocious Superman 64, which nobody wants to talk about. But I think we've gone far enough now in our video game technology where I think a good Superman game can be done, especially with the flying aspect and the big city world building. Obviously, with superheroes in Superman scale, you need to have that larger than life kind of thing. So I've been looking for one. Obviously, so many different right holders and all that stuff. There was hope for a little bit that the Rocksteady was going to be working on a Superman game, especially after the success of the Batman games. Everybody thought that they were going to do that one, which they did with Suicide Squad. Superman's going to be in there, and you'll be fighting him or whatever.
You got to kill Superman.
Yeah, you got to kill him. But I just need a good Superman game where I can fly around the world. I mean, fly around Metropolis, rescue some kittens, punch Lex Luthor, punch Darkseid, Brainiac, all that stuff. Kind of keep city damage so minimal, but I just want to do that. I just want to do I want to feel good. I feel like all these superheroes these days are like dark and gritty. I don't need all that. I don't need Zack Snyder Superman. I need like Superman the animated series Superman. You any interest? I know Spider-Man's like your number one, I think, favorite superhero. For me, it's Superman, but I do like Batman and Spider-Man. Any interest? Would you want to see a good Superman game done?
I mean, I'd want to see it just to see how they make that fun. Like, how do you make that fun?
I mean, I think it's already fun.
It's the curse of
it's
the curse of being God. Like,
yeah.
it's
No, I totally agree with you. It is the curse of being God, where you have to limit that, but also give enough power to people. It's tough to do. That's why it hasn't been done.
Yeah. I think it would be easier to make a Homelander game because of his like
Just
psychotic, like
just
he
won't
he
destroy
doesn't give a
everything.
shit. Yeah, just like so. I think and he's basically like Superman, right? So just from a like personality perspective, I think you could make that into a compelling game. But I feel like it's just real hard to have Superman have like a standalone game. So I think like Justice League, which I guess this would be maybe what they would try to do next with after Suicide Squad. Obviously, that's like with the villains and becoming anti-heroes, but maybe there's like a Justice League type thing down the road, which I think I would be like really excited about that. Um, yeah, I was like more grown up. I was less of a. It was definitely Spider-Man, then Batman, and the Superman animated series. I would watch it, but not
Yeah.
nearly as much as Batman or
Well, it was going off
as
of the
Spider-Man.
coattails of Batman, so you kind of, oh yeah, I'll
Yeah,
watch the
yeah, yeah,
Superman
yeah,
one
yeah,
because
exactly, yeah. Um, and yeah, and I guess that was like I did like collect comic books and stuff like that, but my main thing growing up was really the cartoon. So um so yeah, I don't know. It's so I would love if anything I just want to like see how people make it fun. Like that's the challenge.
no, I think you're right. I think that's why nobody's touched it, because
Yeah.
it's hard to do.
Just yeah, and so instead they're like, you know what, let's not worry about that. Like let's just try to get a group of people to kill that person.
Yeah.
So that's why I think just Suicide Squad makes a lot more sense.
All right. Next game we want would be Deadpool, and I know they made this game. I know there's a couple of Deadpool games out there, but I don't think, especially with the resurgence of Deadpool in the Marvel movies, in the comics, and all, I mean he's always been like a cool character, but I think that with the new Reynolds movies, I think they've kind of made it more appealing for everybody, and also kind of brought forth what's so great about Deadpool with the breaking the fourth wall and all that stuff, and the merc with a mouth kind of thing. I feel like with a video game that does it really well in the vein of Spider-Man, with that big world, just different things. I think that would work really well. But it has to be that raunchy kind of. I don't want to say like R-rated humor, because I think with Deadpool, the character being such like a frat boy or what, like frat boy humor, where it has to be like what's the rating, PG-17 or whatever, whatever the 18,
NC
yeah,
17. Yeah.
NC-17 humor, where it's like it's not too dark, but it's just like raunchy kid humor, like you guys are idiot frat people. I think would be really well. They need to get some really good writers. What do you think? I know you're a big like Deadpool fan, and obviously with the Reynolds movies, we've actually been to a couple. We went to both of them when they went into theaters. Well, what do you think about a Deadpool video game?
Yeah, no, I think that'll I don't know, it's tough. Like I definitely would love to see it. I even wonder if Ryan Reynolds would actually just like get involved and like in
He's
some
doing
way
too
like
much.
me.
He's like, I'm going to Wrexham. I'm making the movie. I have Mint
But
Mobile. I don't want to make a video game.
but I think there's like I think that could be more lucrative than the movie.
Oh, definitely
Like
could. I
like
mean, video games are now the fastest,
yeah,
the most selling entertainment
yeah.
property thing.
So no, I think it'd be cool. I actually I know there's a couple Deadpool games, but I don't think they were like particularly great. So I'd be interested in just anything Deadpool. I also just don't think there's like a lot of like funny games.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I
That's
mean?
true. Yeah.
Like there's so I think that would be nice. Like when's the last time you laughed at a video game? Like
No, yeah, that's true. That's also
basically
true.
never. so so I think there's an opportunity to land the humor of Deadpool in a video game. And I think it would be rated. It'd be fine if it's rated M. Like I think there's no shortage of very commercially successful games that are rated M for mature. So I don't think that's going to be a big issue. I think that historically was a bigger issue with movies, but I think less so with video games.
Yeah. No, I think you're right.
Did I ever share the story of how I got Duke Nukem?
No.
You know Duke Nukem, right? Like
Yes,
the okay.
Duke Nukem, the game.
I know
out.
I'm older than you, so I just want to know the original Duke on PC.
Yeah, the original one. I know about the original one, and I also know about the one.
The original one. And you know, it's like it's very violent, and there's like nudity and all this stuff. And I think that was so long ago. That was there was a rating system, but I don't think it was well understood by parents. So like I don't even think parents even knew that was like a thing that they had to like look out for. So when I was at the store, I think it was a CompUSA. If that's a thing, it was like a PC like computer like retail chain.
Or Office. What's the other one? Office Depot was also kind of, but probably a CompUSA.
It was similar to that, but like more computers and stuff. But anyway, so they were selling the game. I'm like, cool, we're talking about this game. I'm gonna get it. And then all I had to do, my hack for beating the rating system was holding the box. I just put my hand over the bottom right corner so that you couldn't see the rating. And I'm like, hey mom, can I get this game? And she's like, oh, okay.
Life hack.
But you just had to put your hand over the rating.
There you go.
That's how I got it. So that's how I got Duke Nukem at a very young age.
I gotta ask your mom. Is like, do you know he got Duke Nukem when he wasn't supposed to?
Ask her.
That's how you beat the system. Now it's just
beat the system.
Now you just buy it digitally, and you don't have to worry about it.
Or that, yeah.
All right, and then the last one that we want to talk about, which I'll put together, would be Avengers and X-Men. And the reason I put them together is because they're both teams. And I know I talked about it a couple weeks back because I just recently purchased the Avengers game by Square Enix. But me talking about it, I don't think it's done really well. You don't feel like each character you're inhabiting, like they all feel the same. Kamala Khan, Iron Man, Thor, the whole shebang of Avengers, they all feel kind of the same. You don't feel like they each have their own unique character and spin on it, even with the different powers. And the story isn't that great, so I do feel like they should make a new Avengers game. I know they were kind of riding the coattails of Endgame and Infinity War, and they want to kind of make it very similar. Even to the point where the characters kind of look a little bit like them, and it kind of goes off of that, but I think that just hurt them more than it helped them. So definitely up for a new Avengers game where you actually feel like the Avengers. Don't try to make it a big world thing. And then X-Men as well, big fan of X-Men, especially coming from the early Saturday morning cartoons on Fox back in the 90s. And even though, you had Marvel Ultimate Alliance, which I think was the closest one that got to kind of bringing the team together, I think a new X game, we're right for it. I think just getting all these characters. I know we're getting a new Wolverine by Insomniac, but just to have the whole team and their different powers and seeing what they're dealing with and their storylines, I think would be great. Would work great. So yeah, new Avengers, new X-Men. Just bring the teams, but make it good. Don't try to go too far and include a whole roster. Just give me 5 or 6 characters and you'll be fine. What about you? Any interest on Avengers or X-Men?
Yeah. I mean, I think less so Avengers, just because I feel like that it's like too fresh. Like they just tried it and it was not great.
Yeah, you're right.
Of course, if a different studio attempted it, maybe they would take a different approach to it, and that could be good. But, and I feel like just with like the Marvel fatigue, like the Marvel like MCU fatigue, and all that stuff. Like I feel like that's maybe kind of also putting a bad taste in my mouth. So for me, it's like I'm good with Spider-Man, and down the road, we can figure something out with Avengers. And isn't there a I think there is like a Captain America and Black Panther game coming out.
Yeah, you have that
Right,
one
so, like,
that's by Amy Hennig from EA. You also have
yeah.
an Iron Man one from Motive, the makers of the fuck. I just blanked out. Motive. They just had a good game. Dead Space, the Dead Space remake.
Okay.
They're making one. Imagine if at the end of that Iron Man game, Nick Fury comes in and is like, "Hey, the Avengers Initiative."
I got a job for you.
Yeah, and then you just start the whole fucking Marvel.
Maybe. So like I'm sure that'll happen eventually, but like it's not. I'm not like foaming at the mouth to have that right now. What I would be more interested in is like a fresh take on X-Men. And I think what's influencing that is like all of these kind of like high school, college entertainment experience. So it's like the Persona games with, takes place in high school and you have all these social links and whatever. And then also from like a TV perspective, I've been watching Gen V, which is basically like, Xavier's school for gifted whatever. I forgot what the full title is, but so I think there could be like a cool game that takes place in like a school setting. And yeah, I think I didn't mention it earlier when we were talking about cartoons. The X-Men cartoon in the 90s was definitely, I think the ranking probably would be Spider-Man, X-Men, Batman, Superman for me.
Good.
So,
that's a good ranking. I would say Batman, Spider-Man, Superman. Actually, Batman, Spider-Man, X-Men, Superman.
Okay. I could maybe flip-flop on the Batman placement because that was pretty good, but really enjoyed X-Men. There's a new animated series coming out that takes place.
Yeah,
it's like X-Men like 97 or something, or 94.
Yeah, 94.
I don't know, some number. Yeah,
a year in the 90s. Yeah, it's coming out soon, which is just better graphics, HD for the animated series, but set in the same timeline and everything like that. I'm excited for that, but we'll definitely look forward to an X-Men, especially because I feel like they've gotten, besides some of the movies that kind of sucked, I think they've been done really well on movies and TVs, and then with the animated series, X-Men Evolution was pretty well. Wolverine and the X-Men pretty well. So definitely, I think these characters in the consciousness, I think people would really enjoy them.
Yeah, and I feel like I just have less like MCU fatigue because they haven't really gotten into X-Men just yet. So, so I think that's like another reason why I'd be like more interested in a fresh take on that.
Yeah, gotta get the video games out before they botch it on live action.
Yeah. But yeah, I wonder, we very briefly touched on this earlier, but that is, I think, Insomniac's next big title will be a Wolverine game.
Yeah, Wolverine game. Hopefully, maybe 2024. We have no info, but obviously
no.
They weren't saying much because of Spider-Man. Their main focus was Spider-Man, but I think they're a well enough studio where I feel like 2024, the end of 2024 or early 2025.
You think they're a well-oiled machine?
They are a well-oiled machine because
I think it's
top Sony studio, baby.
It's 2025 earliest. Like we haven't seen anything.
Because Spider-Man, they don't want to take the shine off of Spider-Man, man.
Nah, I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong, I would love if that happens, but to me, it's 2025 at the earliest. But yeah, I do wonder if that's like a gateway to. I'm sure there'll be like other characters from X-Men in the game, but I wonder if that'll then kind of like parlay into
Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I mean that's exactly what they're doing, right? I mean that they're like, hey, this, and maybe they're adjusting that approach given how like people are kind of like poo-pooing on the MCU, universe, but like I guarantee that was their strategy 5 years ago, where they're like, hey, like let's just copy and paste that in games, and Insomniac, cracked the code on how to do a great superhero game. So, they're going to be our superhero studio, and then maybe we'll have other studios do other shit, and it can all be a part of the same, game. Well, I guess that'd be MGU, Marvel Gaming. I'm sure that was a real conversation that happened.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, with the rumors of them trying to do a Venom kind of spin-off, obviously with the success, I wouldn't be surprised, and also I wouldn't count, Insomniac. Like I said, top 2 PlayStation studio with the output. I'd put house money on that. So we'll see. Hopefully they do make it a universe.
For me, just I'm a comic book guy, so I would much rather have comic book adaptations, like world-class comic book adaptations versus like, Ratchet and Clank 17.
Whoa.
Or
Ratchet and Clank is good, though.
Nah. I mean, they're fine. But I would rather have Spider-Man and
I don't like
Venom and
I don't like your
Wolverine. They're fine.
No, I get what you mean. I get you, but you got to give them the creative outlet. So whether they want to work on Ratchet and Clank or Spider-Man, you pick. Don't put your foot down, Sony.
No.
All right.
Oh, there was one I wanted to add. This is a late edition.
Go ahead, late edition.
So superheroes that need games. So other than Guardians of the Galaxy, there's not much like cosmic Marvel stuff.
Yeah, because nobody cares about cosmic Marvel, but you have something.
Dude, it's so good. So, and maybe this kind of becomes like another version of like the Superman problem, but to me, it's like, what would a Silver Surfer game be?
No, I will not accept that just because I know you like Silver Surfer and you're just throwing him in here to be like, oh, Silver Surfer. Let me get more people to like Silver Surfer and to look him up. No,
Silver Surfer, Galactus, Thanos, like just more of that stuff.
You think that making a Superman game is hard enough? Imagine making.
I know. I already caveated that.
It's just Silver Surfer's cool looking, cool as a character, but not interesting.
But you never played the game.
Yeah, but there's a reason why Spider-Man's interesting, Batman's interesting, Superman is interesting, is because they do suffer, they have these great powers or whatever, but cosmic shit, too much.
We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll get there one day.
The one guy that wants a Silver Surfer game. If anybody else wants a Silver Surfer game, just
I guarantee there's at least one more person that listens to this podcast and all they need to do is comment on our YouTube video to say that they also want a Silver Surfer.
If you're listening to this, let Nick know that you're with them, because I'm not.
Okay.
All right, so that does it for what we want to talk about. I know it was a very no video game news episode, but video game related. I feel like it was something we wanted to discuss, and very interesting topic. So I hope everybody enjoyed it. We want to kind of just not be the video game news guys. We want to kind of do different topics depending on what we pick up. So hope you guys enjoy that.
Well, we'll be the video game news guys when there's actually a video game, but when there's not, then we need to.
Yeah, then we're just gonna throw out some random ideas. Shit that has to connect with video game news. Tune in next week to next week's episode. Which video game foods would you like in real life? No, I'm kidding. That's not. I mean, that could be. I mean,
Monster Hunter is definitely going to be.
Yeah, that could be a thing.
Featured.
but you know how
you've seen all these like cookbooks, right?
Yeah, I went
Didn't you get these?
I went to the Monster Hunter cafe in Japan when we went, and I had like Monster Hunter food.
Well, there's the cafe. No, I mean like cookbooks. Like there's like a Final Fantasy 14 online cookbook. I'm pretty sure there's a Monster Hunter. That's like the new thing. It's like all these games have cookbooks.
Yeah, so don't be surprised if we throw out a video game food episode.
Maybe I can see if how many of those recipes can be done in an air fryer, because that would be the only reason
There you go.
The only way for me to actually cook it is if you can do it in an air fryer.
There you go. We can make some content out of that. Make some video game foods.
There you go.
Videos. All right. If we would also love to hear from you guys on what you guys think. Any superhero video games, like I said, that you think deserve to be on the list, on our list, or that you would recommend, and also any superheroes that need video games that you guys think that we didn't mention that's not Silver Surfer. Let us know. Make sure you guys check out our Discord, which you can get through our pressingbuttons.gg website. And we're gonna move on to some closing thoughts. I will start off. TV wise, I watched a show called Upload, which was about a dude. Well, it's about a world where you can upload when you die. You can upload your mind into a digital world. So like The Sims or Second Life or whatever.
It's like the Cylons in Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, that kind of thing. It was pretty funny. It's a heartwarming story. So, new season just came out on Amazon. Season 3, they got 2 episodes in, but pretty enjoyable show. You know, kind of seeing how technology is, or what they think sarcastically technology could be, and how dumb it is when people just let it kind of take over the world. So I've been seeing that. I also watch, in the spirit of Halloween, watch this movie called Totally Killer. Which stars the girl from Mad Men, Kierna Shipka. Pretty fun. It's a bit of a horror movie mixed in with Back to the Future time travel stuff. So it was pretty cool to see that done in that aspect where it's like horror, but time travel. So that was pretty good. I would recommend checking it out if you're looking for something to do for Halloween. And then as far as video games, I did finish Jedi Survivor. Really enjoyable. I got fatigued towards the end because it's video games, man. Like after a while, I'm just getting bored of these narratives where it's like, okay, Star Wars, what are you trying to tell me? What are you trying to do? So it was a good game, but just kind of boring towards the end. I would still recommend it if you're a big Star Wars fan. And then I have not been playing Spider-Man. That's why I'm really jealous of Nick, but that's more on me because I've been playing Lies of P, which, as everybody knows, we're big Soulsborne guys. I decided to get that, and I've been really enjoying it. It's a little bit more difficult than any other Soulsborne. I think there's less room for error, so it's taking me a little bit longer. And I've had more helps when I'm trying to do the boss fights. I've done the boss battles with NPCs to just beat them. But I think it's a really enjoyable game. I like the story that they're telling, different aspect of it where it's not just the Soulsborne mechanics of combat. It's got a nice story to it, even though the dude looks like Timothée Chalamet and it's puppetry Pinocchio. So really, really enjoyable. And I've been hearing that, it ends really well, so I'm looking forward to that. And as soon as I'm done, I will jump on that Spider-Man train because everybody's been asking me, are you playing Spider-Man? And Nick, are you playing Spider-Man?
I am.
And what else? Talk to me.
And
Tell
I'm
me
loving
your
it.
closing thoughts.
And I'm loving it. I think that's it on the gaming front. I've been really prioritizing. I have not that many hours of gaming in me these days. Hopefully that'll pick back up. But when I have had time to play games, I've been focusing on Spider-Man, and I think it's.
I'll tell you this: going off of your comments in the group chat of you playing the game, I feel like I'm surprised you're enjoying this way more than I thought you would, because I figured
the game.
I figured you were gonna be like, oh, it's just another game where I gotta do the same thing and the side quests and all that stuff. But you're doing a lot of side quests. You're turning into me side quest wise, where you're enjoying doing them and you're doing a lot more side stuff.
The term I used is I've gone full Hugo, and you're not ever supposed to go full Hugo.
No, that's a good thing. What are you talking about?
Oh, okay. No, I've gone full Hugo. Yeah, I don't know. I maybe like we'll see if that continues through me completing the game, but I feel like they've really perfected the balance of like side quest and where they're at on the map and the things that you do when you're there. Like there's a lot of good variety of, like different puzzles, sequences of things to do. So it feels fresh, and not like monotonous, but maybe that happens. But I've played, I don't know how many hours I've played, but I've played the game quite a bit. And it still feels good. And I think I mentioned this before. I think I'm incredibly biased because I love Spider-Man. I love New York. It's just a well-made production. So like just flying around and swinging, and the wingsuit is a huge. I think that was a great addition to traversing the city. So
You're really throwing our reputation of being unbiased down the drain. Pressing Buttons is an unbiased publication.
no, I've never said that.
Yeah, you're right. We're totally biased.
My favorite kind of bias is conscious bias.
And we are conscious about it.
People always worry about unconscious bias, but I'm like, hey, it's not unconscious bias. It's conscious. I'm telling you how I'm biased. Like, you can't get mad at me.
That's true. That's true.
So yeah, no, I know what you mean. I thought there would be just you knowing me, and then me also knowing me, being like, this is too samey. I'm bored. You know, ready. Like that kind of happened with God of War, right? Like I think I was actually just thinking about that as I was playing Spider-Man. I'm like, why? Like I loved God of War, and then Ragnarok, I just got bored. It just kind of hit this threshold of sameness that, not that I didn't enjoy it, but like I just got like, I got sidetracked or something else happened in my life, and then I just kind of like didn't have that urge to go back and play the game just because I felt like it was you or me.
You.
Me, yeah, I still haven't finished it. So yeah, I know what you mean, but I haven't, like, there's something, and again, I think they just like introduced enough new stuff, and the combat system's also like much more improved. It's I can't remember exactly, versus Miles Morales, but I remember in the Miles game, it was like way better, way more fun and enjoyable combat versus the original Spider-Man game. So Spider-Man 2, it's more kind of in line with Miles, which is a good thing for sure. The production value is just like insane. Like, so there's this, it just does a lot of things well. It runs, so unlike Final Fantasy 16,
you didn't have to do that.
The performance mode actually is a performance mode with a high, it's a target 60 frames per second. It's stable with a few exceptions. So it's probably the best looking PlayStation 5 game at this point. So yeah, I'm having a good time, and
yeah, I can't wait to get on it so we could actually have a conversation. I know you've been having a conversation with our good friend Zach about and D-Pass with what you guys are doing, but I definitely want to be part of that group. It seems great, man, and I had no doubt.
The story is like great. I mean, it's Spider-Man stories with some tweaks here and there, but like it's just the writing and the storytelling is like so good. If you're a Spider-Man fan, like you're gonna love it. Yeah.
All right, maybe we can finally review a video game together. Still waiting on that Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah, we'll see about that. The one thing, this is a shout out to Deepa, like maybe I would have found it at some point, but I don't know if you remember when they first showed the map for Spider-Man 2, they were like, oh yeah, like you can now go into Queens
and Brooklyn, yeah.
And then I'm like, oh shit, like it's not east enough to cover like where I live in Queens. And then I think you kind of mentioned at the beginning of the episode, I live in Forest Hills, which is where in the comics that's where Peter Parker lives. So I was like, oh, are they gonna have Forest Hills in the game? But it's like too far east. But they basically created like a version of Forest Hills and like the train station in the map in the game. So I thought that was like, that's like a lot of attention to detail, right? Where I think for like technical reasons and also probably for like a lot of gameplay reasons, like going that far east in Queens probably wouldn't have been that fun. So they wanted to like, they basically did like Astoria, but then they like, created this bootleg version of Forest Hills inside of Astoria. So, you know, they took some creative liberties, but at least for me, that was like a fun, like, hey, like that's basically the train station I live by.
Yeah, the whole game, and we said this from the first one too. It just makes you feel like you're in New York, and you know, they paid such great attention to detail. It works so well.
There's one side quest in particular where you're like you need to take photos, and it's basically like super New York. Like it's like this is what it's like all about living in New York and all these stories. Like it's great, dude. Like it's so good.
I need to get it. I mean, especially because I'm wearing my Spider-Man shirt.
There's a chopped cheese reference.
Chopped cheese.
It's got everything, dude.
This is a year of chopped cheese. It was in Ninja Turtles. Now Spider-Man. Moving on up.
Yep.
Anything else? You got TV or anything like that?
I'm current on Gen V.
I'm waiting till they're all out.
Yeah. That'll be good. Like it's not like so incredibly good that you need to like watch it week over week because I don't think anything too crazy is going to get spoiled. But it's a good show, and I think it's starting to like more tie with the boys. And there was like some article that I saw where there's going to be like a pretty like direct kind of like handoff from the end of Gen V to the next season of the boys, and they'll kind of like go back and forth. So that's cool. But yeah, it's a good show.
Something to look forward to then.
Yeah. And I think that's it on TV. Yeah. Gen V.
Well, I'm glad even with your daddy duties, having a 1-month-old now, you've been able to game some. I know, you know, it's a little bit rough, but
do you know why? Do you know why?
Because of that little swaddle chair that you have?
No, I think it's because it's the good grace. It's the good grace of my wife. I think my wife, how important Spider-Man is to me.
Oh, okay. Just because it's Spider-Man.
I think it's specifically because it's Spider-Man, and she's just like, fine. Like, I know you need to play this, so just play it. So
shout outs to the wife.
If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be playing this because I don't think I played before that. Like, I basically just like wasn't playing video games other than
too busy
stuff on my analog pocket. So that's it.
All right, thank the wife. All right. And that does it for us. Make sure you guys are checking us out, pressingbuttons.gg, where you can get all our social media, our YouTube channel, and our Pressing Buttons Discord link. That way you guys can join us, become part of the Pressing Buttons community. We enjoy our community. And if you have any opinions about our superhero stuff, make sure you guys let us know there. We take all opinions seriously, but, you know, we don't give a fuck about other people's opinion. But, yeah, seriously. We take your opinion seriously, but we don't care.
Seriously.
Yeah. But that does it. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you in next week's episode, which is the Halloween episode. And we got some nice costumes. Super excited about that.
And episode 84.
84.
Which is my birth year.
Okay.
Which is significant.
That is not significant
for some reason. No?
That wasn't like, I thought you were going to say something about it in 84 that was historic. I'm like, okay.
No.
All right, we're keeping people too long. But make sure you tune in next week, episode 84. It's our annual Halloween episode, which we dress up. We're super excited about it. And we've been hinting about it throughout the year. So you guys will enjoy it. All right. That's enough for me.
The costumes arrived.
Yeah, there you go. I'm ready. That's enough out of us. We'll see you next week's episode. I'm Hugo. Bye.
I'm Nick later.